Izzy here, and I remember a time not long ago when my Sundays were dictated by scripture, my beliefs by dogma, and my spiritual world felt incredibly small. Every prayer was structured, every doubt suppressed. Then something shifted. For me, it was the quiet pull towards my ancestors. For Sarah, it was the undeniable call of intuition, guiding her away from the familiar and into the unknown. We both ended up in places we never expected, trading hymns for hexes and sermons for spirit work.
Welcome to Just Another Statistic, hosted by Sarah and Izzy. This is where we lay bare our deconstruction from Christianity and our vibrant, sometimes challenging transition into witchcraft and personal spirituality. We're here to share the blueprint of our spiritual rebuilding, one honest conversation at a time. Whether you're someone who diligently attended church for decades, or you've always felt a magnetic pull towards something other, this podcast is for you. We'll explore the hows and whys of our journey, discussing everything from finding new community to understanding ancient practices and navigating family dynamics. Our goal is to connect through our stories, acknowledge that while our paths are unique, the quest for authentic spirituality is a universal human experience. Join us as we explore the rich tapestry of spirituality beyond the statistic.
Before we begin, we want to share a brief but important note. To protect the privacy and identities of everyone involved, we will not be using the real names of people or churches in our stories. We also want to acknowledge that every story has at least two sides, and what you're about to hear is simply our story, sharing our experiences from our unique perspective. We've dedicated a lot of time to healing from these experiences and will continue this journey. And we sincerely wish nothing but love and light for all the individuals whose paths have intersected with ours. So we're talking about Sarah's experience specifically in Christianity. We heard about my family dynamics, being homeschooled, and are now addressing Sarah's dynamics of being in a family of leadership within the church, and also being a Black woman, because being a person of color always adds a layer of fun to everything, from what I've heard. Yeah. You gonna set us up?
Yeah, so I come from a multi-generational family of Christians. We'll just go father side, mother side. Mother side, we've had deacons. My great-grandfather was a deacon. My great-grandmother was in the church. My grandmother was a lifetime churchgoer, along with my mom and my uncle. All went to the church. My uncle ended up becoming a member of the Watchtower Society, Latter-day Saints.
Yes, we did talk about that.
Not Mormons, the other guys. His path diverged a little bit, but then my mom grew up Christian, went to Bible college, where she ended up meeting my father. On my father's side, it goes back multi-generation and all leadership throughout them, down to my grandfather, who was a reverend at a local church for, it was like 20 years or something like that. And then my uncle was ordained, I believe. Another uncle through marriage is currently a pastor. My brother is a pastor. Another uncle is a reverend, a pastor through something. One of my cousins is very much in the church as well. It cascades.
Yes.
And I happen to be the baby of it all. I am the baby of my generation, so I am the youngest out of all my cousins. So that was an interesting growing up process. Yeah.
So how did it feel being raised in a family where pastoral leadership was generational?
It felt normal. It felt like that was the norm for everybody. You had your family, you went to church, you saw your family at church. You know, we would go over to our grandparents for like Sunday dinner and stuff. And it was like, how was church today? And that was the conversation. It was, and if my grandfather went and preached at another church, the entire family went with him because half of the family is the choir. Right. So to me, it was normal. I didn't realize that wasn't the norm until much later.
So what were specific unspoken expectations or roles you felt were laid out for you or other family members?
We had a very patriarchal setup. For the most part, my grandfather was the head of the family. What he set down went. That was law. Not in a bad way. He wasn't like tyrannical, but he had the last say. Right. If something was dealing with the family needed to happen, he was the last say of it. Even though it became very apparent that the women in the family, even though they are women, they were the neck. And so they had a lot of sway. Right. In how things were run. If, you know, something the men did that they didn't like, it was no. And I think there was a lot of respect on my grandmother in that way because she had multiple children altogether. I don't know the number altogether because I know there were some miscarriages in there, but the aunts and uncles that I had, my grandparents had 7 children that made it to adulthood. It was a big family, and I feel like it was very structured. There was a hierarchy in a way. And if you were in the kitchen, the women were in charge. Outside that, the men can have their say. Right. But it was very matriarchal inside the home. I felt like growing up, it was expected of me and my generation to continue on the Christian line. Anything outside of that wasn't spoken of. Anything that was outside of the Christian purview wasn't spoken of. And it was always assumed that you were going to be Christian for the rest of your life. And you were going to dedicate your life to the work of the Lord. And I feel like it was a bit, women were in the kitchen, women were expected to get married and have children and raise them as Christians. But it was very big, very loud.
Yes. Can you recall a specific moment or turning point where you first understood the depth of this family legacy and its implications for your life?
I think there was a couple of times where I understood the power behind my last name. One in particular, we were going on base. My grandfather also was in the military for, I think it was like 20 years. He went all over the world, and he retired as a major. So he got up there. He saw some action, but we were headed to base to go bowling because that's where we always went. And we usually caravanned, and usually it was like my grandfather was in the first car, and it was fine. This one time, they were like, no, it has to be somebody, either active duty member or a veteran who's driving the car. My grandfather was so mad. And I'm pretty sure he called some people and was like, I shouldn't have to go through these hoops just to enjoy a day with my family. And I think that was a moment where I was like, oh, there's some power behind this last name. Another time was more out in the wild. And I was like, oh, are you so-and-so's daughter? Are you related to so-and-so? And I was like, yeah. It was like, okay, my last name has some power behind it inside, not just the city, but inside the Christian community too. Your Reverend granddaughter. Yeah. Which I felt like also put a little bit of a bullseye on my back. Right. Because I was always being watched. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
How did your identity as a Black woman intersect with this deeply Christian environment? Imagine being a Black woman.
Yes, Izzy. I can't imagine being a black woman. It felt so when I was at my grandparents' house, it felt normal because there was a lot of black people there, right?
Right.
It was the black community. In the city that we're here in this city is in our state. It's not high. Like the black people percentage is like 3%. So there's not a big black community. So in the outside world, when I was going to school, public school, and all that stuff, I was only one of the only black people.
Mm-hmm.
So it felt other. Like it was
Yeah.
like, okay, I look different than everybody else around me. I'm not sure I was treated differently in like school or anything.
Yeah.
At least that, not that I noticed, but there was always this sense of other.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was at my family's house, it was relaxed.
Right.
It was normal.
Right.
That was our norm. And it's hard to tell people of like, feel like I put this one face on for the outside world, so I'm not judged for the color of my skin.
Right.
But when I'm at home, that mask can fall off because everybody's the same color, I don't think it was. I think there was a pride that got brought in for being one of the, I would say, not premier black families, but one of the bigger black families in the city. And it was like, yes, we are black and we know our family history.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think emphasis on black history was quite emphasized enough.
Yeah.
I think there was a lot of still shame coming out of the slave trade and like being like, I could only imagine how my grandfather was treated in the military and such, because my grandfather went to Nam twice.
Mm-hmm.
So just thinking of like the difficulties he had to kind of navigate. My grandfather was a big man, so I don't think a lot of people messed with him.
Yeah.
I feel like I myself was shielded from a lot of the negativity that came with being a black person.
Yeah.
Because again, I was the baby. So
yeah,
protect the baby.
I do feel like that's obviously New Mexico and Albuquerque isn't perfect, but I do feel like that's one thing that we're a little better about.
Mm-hmm.
I feel it's much rarer to experience like full-on racism. There's obviously always a lot of microaggressions everywhere, but like blatant racism, just because America is a melting pot, but then like New Mexico is a melting pot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it'd be very different if I was
In the South.
in the South, like my parents or my grandparents were originally from.
Yeah.
If we were back there, there'd be much different vibes.
Were there unique cultural expressions of faith or community responsibilities that shaped your experience?
My grandfather was always very generous with the family, like any assets, anything he had. He was always very generous of giving it out, making sure everybody was taken care of in the family. And that extended to his church community as well. He worked a lot with a couple of Native American churches and groups, and some of those people became family.
Right.
When he was around, they would show up and he'd be like, "Oh, you're black now." Okay.
They do that.
You're an honorary member now, so come on in. I feel like there was an understanding with our last name that if my grandfather was involved, shit was going to get done.
Right.
And I think I'm kind of proud of that standard that he set of the community knew if they went to him, things were going to get done one way or another. Things were going to get paid for. You need groceries that week. You were going to get groceries. You need something on your car worked on. Someone somewhere is going to show up. Mechanic's going to show up, and it was going to get done. So I feel like there was just a standard that my grandfather held in his public figure persona that was very generous and making sure the job got done.
Right.
And taking care of the community, not just ourselves.
How did you differentiate between the faith you inherited and your personal evolving relationship with God or spirituality?
That one's hard. I think that one's more recent because the foundation was always very Christian. And I think there was a lot of ancestral beliefs that were cut off.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the one person that really helped me have my own faith and my own relationship was my mother. Because she would always say, we follow God, not man. It doesn't matter if they're a family member or not. We follow God, not man. And so I think that was a big differentiating factor of my faith as my own.
Right.
So even if, yes, my family's in good standing right now, but if they took a wrong turn and I didn't agree with it, I could be like, I follow God, not man. So what you guys is doing is wrong.
Yeah.
So I think the foundation of my family was very important because my grandfather would sing hymns all the time, mind you, but he would sing hymns all the time. So it was just part of growing up. We would be out at a restaurant and he just starts humming, and someone else would pick up the tune and start humming somewhere, because then everybody in the restaurant would stop,
Right.
But I think for my own spiritual walk, it was my mom that was very much the pioneer for me knowing what I believed for me and not just
what you were being told.
Yeah.
Were there moments where you felt pressure to conform to certain roles or beliefs because of your family's standing?
I feel like it was more just like I felt like I was being watched because of my last name. And so I had to be good. You better be good, because if not, someone in the family is going to hear about it.
Yeah.
And then it's going to get back to.
And then everybody's going to hear it.
And that's the person that she was the disciplinarian in the family. My father was too, a little bit, but mostly it was, you didn't want to do something that was going to bring shame on the family, because someone was going to hear about it and it will get back to the family and they will deal with it swiftly. So,
is there a specific moment you remember being like, I can't do this
because of my last name?
I want to do something, but I can't do it because I'm going to get caught.
Not particularly, no. It was more just a general sense of I need to do good to bring up the name, rather than, it wasn't really a deterrent, because I feel like I also was in a slightly isolated group. I always was with my church friends. I had very few quote unquote secular friends. And so we were always at church doing something at church.
Right.
So
you described the emotional impact of living within such a strong, defined spiritual tradition while also developing your own sense of self and belief.
I think it empowered me to speak my mind. And especially when we came out of the church, I felt like, yes, I have this legacy and it is a very powerful name and deeply rooted in Christianity, but you stood on business. You were leader, not follower. I feel like that was very much put on my brother a lot. And I kind of got, because I grew up with my brother, I inherited some of that, and it was more of just natural leadership. And it's like, we lead, we don't follow. And so when it came to my own spiritual walk, it was like, I lead, I don't follow. Not because you guys say otherwise. And also, when I became an adult, I was no longer under my family name in a church setting. We had already branched out into Megachurch number 2, and then we went to the Raft, and I was already how do I describe this? I was already in such a place of and having to be an individual because people didn't look like me, for one. And it was like, how can you tell me my experience when you're a white man talking from a pulpit? And I was like, I would feel better if it was a black man talking from the pulpit and being like, this is our experience with the word. But you're telling me that's your experience with the word. That's not my experience with the word. So I feel like I had a foundation of, I have to stand on my own business and not just waver in the wind.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yes. No coattail Christians.
No coattail Christians here.
How did the church shape your understanding of community, social justice, and personal resilience?
Growing up in my mind, the church was supposed to be a place, one of safety, one of doing right by your community. It wasn't this insular thing where you're not talking to your community, you're not a part of your community, you're not, oh, they're outside, so we don't talk to them. That wasn't church, especially with my grandfather, again, being very generous. It was, we did the drives, we did the food drives, we did the coat drives, we did the back to school drives, making sure our communities were taken care of. If there was somebody that didn't have enough money for Thanksgiving dinner, we made sure you had Thanksgiving dinner. The church and community were meshed in a way that I don't see today.
And that's something I want to ask you about. That's something we really haven't had a conversation about. I remember it was like your mom talking about after George Floyd had gotten killed and how nobody in the church had called her to ask her if she was okay, and that upset her. My understanding of Christians is that they don't believe in any of that. Like, in my understanding of Christian community, it is not like they don't believe America is racist. They don't believe police are racist. They don't like that's not church is supposed to not pick a side, but church is very Republican, very Christian nationalists, and they don't believe or support in any of that. So how did that how did you guys miss that? I would say, because your mom is very pro Black rights, social movement, and I always feel like that's a disconnect when I'm talking to her, because she's also trying to be in the church and support the church, and I'm like, but they don't support you.
The Black church, very active in social justice and things like. In the Black church, it was our life. It was things we dealt with on the daily. So we couldn't look away at it from it. And so it was you saying this, I sparked a memory. We were at my grandfather's house, and it must have been an election, but I was real young. I wasn't voting yet. So,
yeah.
And they were talking about being Democratic or Republican. Pretty sure most of them were Democrats at that time. And it was because the Democratic Party at that time, and I say at that time, okay, was, from my understanding, it was like after the party switch. And so the Democrats were actually very pro-Black, pro-POC, and very much propping up people of color. And I would just be part of the community, honestly. And so inside the Black church, it's because it's a lived experience, we can't ignore it. I think it's integrated in how we teach the Bible and how we understand the Bible. Because stories that we hear about being a slave and all that kind of stuff, it's integrated. We understand it from a different perspective. We understand it from the slave perspective rather than the master's perspective, because that's what we went through as a collective. And it's unfortunately, recently, it's actually becoming more prominent that people believe the Black church isn't Christian, and they're heretical. They're being heretical by teaching out of the same Bible that they say that they believe in, but they're saying that because it's from a Black perspective, it's wrong.
Mm.
And I think that's where the divergence between a prominently white church
Yeah.
is and a prominently Black church. Because another thing about Black churches, if you miss, they're calling you.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't answer, they're knocking on your door.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what hurt Mom the most during all of that, because where she grew up in Ohio.
Right.
She had a prominently Black church. And in that church, her mother was known. And so if something happened, their phone was ringing.
Right.
The sense of community inside the Black church was very different from
the pretend community in white churches.
To put it
bluntly,
not saying all white churches are that way. There are some that started out good and then they died. So, but yeah, it was, you had to make sure everybody was okay, especially when you're dealing with things like microaggressions, prejudice, dealing with, did the police pull over this person and take them to jail for no reason?
right.
And that's why they're missing church this Sunday.
Right. Yeah.
Like, I think that's a lived experience in the Black communities that I don't think white people will ever understand.
Not recently, no.
And it's just one of those things that you can't walk out your door and go to work without having someone look at you sideways. It's because you're Black. Oh, you must be connected to the gang bangers or something, or doing something wrong, or you got to this position because of nefarious means, not because you worked hard and earned it. So,
did you ever feel a tension between the spiritual message and broader societal realities for Black women?
well, I think I heard someone talking about it. They were talking about interracial couples and how Black women and white men couples have it was like a 40% less divorce rate than, say, white couples, or opposite, Black man, white woman couples. And it was just talking about the intricacies that we have to deal with as people of color inside that relationship. I think it's very similar in the church. if especially versus like a Black church versus a white church. Read the question one more time, because I was like,
did you ever feel a tension between the spiritual messages and broader societal realities for Black women?
I don't say Black women in particular, but people of color in particular. I feel like there's always you're a person of color, so therefore you are in the status of a slave, even if you're a free person. And so you need to act like that, which, yeah, I think that's the tension I always felt of, like, I'm a Black person, so I shouldn't understand this concept, or I don't have to worry about this concept because I'll never be in that position of power. That's what it felt like.
How do you process that?
It angers me and saddens me all at the same time. Usually, mostly, I think I felt that tension in Megachurch number 2 the most, especially being like, I'm on staff and yet I'm being treated as if I've never been here. And it'd be so frustrating because it's like, that's not very Christian acting when you ignore people to the point of, no, I work here. Grew up at this church, and I've been on staff for almost 2 years. What are you talking about? My first time? It's because of the color of my skin, right? Because I'm bald. I look different, and it just felt like almost like I was a second class citizen.
Yeah.
And I think if you really look into it and really, like, if you talk to my mom about it too, we weren't seen as individuals. We were always lumped together because there was a couple of people of color in Megachurch number 2, and now I'm thinking about it. There was one time when my mother went to her Sunday school class that she was in, and there was a lady that was part of the choir, and she could sing. She was really good singing. And my mom went to her Sunday school class, and the lady comes up, I just loved what you sang this morning.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom just looked at this woman and was like, I'm part of the praise team.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, and then also another time, this was years prior, and someone came up to my mom and was like, your husband is just so well spoken and so well knowledged. And thank you for those compliments, but that's not my husband.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Or white presenting woman, she's Hispanic, but
Right.
And it was like, I feel like in the church, from the pulpit, it was more like we were the token Black people.
Yeah.
And we didn't have actual faces. We were just a group.
Yeah.
Accessories, yes.
Yeah, I definitely feel that happened to both of us. And I know that I feel like I did talk to Sugar Cube about it when we were doing our devotional of like how me and you never fit into the box of like what a Christian woman should look like and present herself as.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore we were undesirable to the men in church. And I
We're
feel
also very outspoken.
yeah, and we're opinionated. But as far as like appearance goes, I feel like a lot of those like norms for Black women don't fit into that category.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like they ask you to, again, remove
my Blackness to make them more comfortable.
Yeah, to make you more palatable to them. Yeah, that
Yeah.
was definitely something that I had noticed.
No.
Yeah.
I think coming from you, it's made me realize all the things that I've put up with over the years.
Yeah.
And I was like, I thought that was just a woman thing. Nope, that's also a Black woman thing.
Yeah.
Because I think being a woman and being Black, there are things that overlap in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's hard to differentiate. It's like, is that because I'm Black?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I think it's easier for women to understand some of the plight that people of color go through.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also like, there's this is what we have to deal with as being women. And then there's just that little meep more because of the Blackness.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Looking back, what aspects of that upbringing do you cherish and carry with you today?
The sense of community, I think I will cherish forever. Now, being able to explore my heritage outside of Christianity is something I'm looking forward to.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I lost that for a while, especially coming out of Christianity, but also everything that went down with my family. I felt like I lost that and I really want it back. And I feel like that go-getter, no nonsense, we're not followers, we're leaders, so we're going to go find it. I think that I will cherish forever.
Yeah.
Almost pride in oneself and our accomplishments, even though we are Black,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that mentality was distilled at me very young, and I will take that into my future.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I will cherish that mentality forever.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, the thing I loved about your family is I've spent Christmas with Sarah's family once, which was an interesting experience for me.
It's like, you're about to learn a lot of names and you're not going to remember any of them. That's okay.
No, it was really beautiful because I felt so welcomed. I was the only white person in the house, which was an interesting experience for me.
in a black house, so we were masked.
Oh yeah. And her grandmother has dementia. She kept asking me if I was one of hers, which was really sweet. But it was just like such a warm feeling of family that I haven't even really experienced in my own family. And that was, yeah, really beautiful.
Wow. I'm pretty sure that's one of the last Christmases we had together, because my grandfather had already passed. And something my mom and I discuss frequently is he's the one that got the family together.
Yeah.
My grandfather was like, "Are we hosting Christmas?" I'm like, "Oh, duh, I'm making gumbo."
Yeah. Well, and I mean, you did say that it was a patriarchal kind of setup, and your father is the only really living patriarch left, and your dad has not stepped up or taken responsibility for anything. So I'm not surprised that it's fallen out, because it should have fallen to him, and he doesn't do that.
Yeah, as the oldest son, he should have taken over that.
But it was beautiful while it lasted.
Yeah.
So. One more.
Yeah.
How has the unique foundation ultimately shaped your strengths, your worldview, and your present spiritual journey as a Black woman?
My upbringing has given me a sense of be unapologetically yourself, no matter the expectations of others. Because if I went to my family now, I was like, "I'm a witch," that would not go over well.
Yeah.
The ones that would actually sit down and talked with me and like saw where I was coming from, we might still be in disagreement on belief systems, but I feel like most of them would be like, "You're still our baby, Sarah." One of my cousins, actually, one of my aunts, that's not actually my aunt. My mom and I speak to her still, and we try to get together with her and my cousin. We try to get together as much as we can. And I've talked with her about it at length. And I was like, "This is me. Like, this is who I am." And she's like, "Good." Because she comes off strong sometimes as a Black woman. I'm always like, "All right, well, I'm going to match your energy. I'm a Black woman too. So we're going to come off strong." It's like, "This is my boundary. It was crossed. This is what happened." And she's like, "Good, then be yourself."
Yeah.
And I think hearing that from someone inside the family was very healing in a way.
Yeah.
From the spiritual damage that was done.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's my foundation in being a Black woman, but also being a Christian Black woman has taught me lessons of being unapologetically you. And you follow what's right.
Yeah.
Not what a popular pastor says.
Yeah.
So just be unapologetically you. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. All right. Thank you for tuning in to Just Another Statistic. Each episode, we aim to explore the profound shifts that occur when we bravely step away from inherited beliefs and embrace new spiritual awakenings. This path from Christianity to witchcraft and spirituality is one of constant evolution, marked by unique turning points and deeply felt emotions. We believe that every deconstructed, every spiritual discovery is a powerful story waiting to be told. If you've been in a similar path or are just beginning to ask the difficult questions, we invite you to share your personal journey with us. Whether it's a specific moment of realization, a challenge you overcome, or a newfound sense of peace, your story adds vital depth to this conversation. Send us an email at jastatistic@gmail.com or connect with us on social media at Just Another Statistic Podcast on TikTok and Instagram. We're curious about what you're struggling with, what you care about, and how our podcast has inspired you.
Your voice matters. And by sharing it, you help build a vibrant community for those who might feel like outliers or just another statistic. Don't forget to follow our podcast to stay with us on this journey. And if this episode brought you value, please share it with someone who needs to hear it.